Hello, today I want to demonstrate a few skills that I find relevant in handling data. I want us to look at some data and see how to manipulate some variables. So supposing you have your data and it has it's a simple data. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and you are required to manage this data and label the variables that have numbers. At the same time, you're supposed to transfer the figures that are in one column into another column. The first thing that you need to do is to scan through your data and see what kind of variables that have been stored in that data set. So in this case, we have all the datasets here showing up in red in Stata, and these variables that are in red signify that the figures are string variables. They are not numeric variables, and they are all string variables. So having noted that, that's a significant thing to note. Having noted that, then we need to know how to manipulate through this data so that we have what is expected of us. So question is posed that these names need to show up into a new column here, and again the content of these two variables need to be labeled in Stata, so that we, instead of having one, like in this case the relationship is 1, we need to know what this 1 stands for, and the 2 in this case for our relationship, we need to know what exactly this 2 stands for. So to go about that, then we need to open our Stata code. Remember that the first thing for you when you're writing your Stata code is to write the description of your code. Say who has prepared that code, when was it prepared, and so on and so forth. Then the other thing is to import your dataset. So in this case, we need to first of all clear off the memory of the Stata so that we don't have any overlaps of datasets from previous calculations. And then we use this code to import the data from our data file. Then for us, since we need to generate a new variable, and it's a string variable, we will call that new variable household member name, and we want to fix first the content of that variable with a string variable. Like I said, the name of the household member is string, so in this case we want to put a similar variable content. So in this case I had pre-generated this code, and I'm going to activate it so that you see what happens. So after doing that, I have generated a new variable name, and I have assigned a string variable content. So to run this code, I need to highlight the entire code. Realize that the green codes are not active, and then I click on the execute selection button, and what has happened? I need to keep the new variable name that I have generated. So in this case, I need to keep the new variable name. So if I run this code again, you will see that now I have generated a new variable name, and the content of that variable is a string string figure. So we have k, k, k running through, signifying that this is string. So we want to transfer the names that are appearing on this first string into this new variable. So to do that, we go back to our code. We want to replace the values of the new variable name with the values of the old variable. So I had pre-generated this, and the code reads replace mem name, which is our new variable, with the contents of the old variable if it's not missing, or it's not missing and at the same time the old variable is not a space. So let me repeat that again. Replace the new variable, which is mem with the contents of the old variable if and only if the content of the old variable is not missing and the content of the old variable is not a space. So if we run that, so highlight and then click on the execute button, and what you'll find out is the first column has been replicated into the fifth column. Now, if we want to allocate the household ID or the new the household ID that corresponds to these names, what we need to do is create a new variable by generating, and let's label that variable as household ID, that is HHID. So similarly in this case, we will put a dummy content into that variable and make sure that this variable is also kept in the dataset. Let's put it like that, and then let's run and see what happens. Let's run the code, highlight everything and run like that. So you realize that now we have a new variable here, but it has a dummy code. So we want this dummy code is not the exact, or it's not the real code, the real household code or household ID that corresponds to these people. So we need to devise a way of replacing this dummy value of the household code for the respective people, and ensure that whatever we have that corresponds to each person is what is replaced here. So we go back to our code, and I had pre-generated this. So we'll go to replace whatever content was there for the household code by the real household code if household member for that particular code is not missing and at the same time it's not dash. So let's run this again and see what happens. So you realize that we have now a new household ID for each of these particular individuals that are here. But supposing we have these individuals belonging to different households and we want to assign different IDs for each individual, what do we do? So let's go back to our code, and we will copy this and paste it, but we will now edit it. So we will replace household ID by, say, let's change this. So household ID if our reference code is equal to, let's try and see if we can manage to change this. So we copy that and replace here, paste, then remove this. So all we want to say that this particular individual, this you can replicate this for several individuals, but we want to say that make sure that the household ID is different, is this new household ID for this particular member. So let's run that and see what happens. An error has shown up. There's a type mismatch, so it's easy to correct that. So let's add another equal sign and then run the code again. So you realize now that this particular person belongs to a household ID that is different from the other members of that particular household. You can make it more conspicuous, like say, let's start with MAR, like that, so that it is distinct from the others. So you realize that now the household ID has changed to MAR_03. So so that's all for now. Let's see how that one works. Thank you for watching. I hope that that has been helpful.